Welcome to the Banff World Media Festival. Your session is about to begin.
This room is amazing, so thank you, AOL. What an incredible space. And thank you, Banff. For those of you that were lucky enough to be here a little bit earlier, you got to see David, which was fantastic. I was in the back. I was giving him a standing ovation. So let's get this started. I've been working in television for over 20 years. And when I first started in television, I started in TV sales. But sales and marketing were very similar. You needed to have an understanding of programming, scheduling, statistics so you understood the basics of ratings. You had to understand some accounting and have a lot of charisma. Today, it's really different. You need to be a sociologist, a futurist, an economist, a technologist. There are so many other things. An anthropologist. The world is changing. Behaviors are changing. So let's take a look. Family viewing. That's what family viewing, when we used to talk about family viewing, it looked like that. Can everyone see that? Yeah? Okay. Today, family viewing looks like this. It's about connectivity. It's about multitasking. This is what family viewing looks like. And so what happened? And I'm going to talk about America today, although David spoke about how 50% of the world's population is under 30. This is something that is happening around the globe. So let's look at the changing face of America. The biggest population we had in the United States were the baby boomers. The baby boomers represented around 76 million people. Huge, huge, huge generation. Then we had the Gen Xers. I kind of fall in that group. And now we have the Millennials. 86 million strong. What do we know about these Millennials? You can group them however you want to group them. But basically, let's look at the 18 to 34-year-olds, and let's call them the Millennials. What's happened? Well, boomers were raised on 3 broadcast networks in the US. Gen Xers had some more choice. They were able to watch about 20 cable channels. Then the Millennials. They were raised on on having content when they wanted it. 24 hours a day, they could get MTV, music videos. They could get Cartoon Network. If they wanted a cartoon, at 3 o'clock in the morning, it was there for them. Media access. Well, there was no internet for baby boomers. These are the guys who have devised a lot of the business models that remain today within our industry. Landline, Atari, and Pac-Man. And of course, you have Millennials that were raised on Xbox and PlayStation, broadband, high speed, TiVo. These guys already were raised wanting their content on demand. Who taught them that? We did. Our industry taught them to want their content on demand. And of course, you look at newspapers and magazines and say, what's going on in that space? Well, the truth is Millennials have been using the internet to gather information, news, information, the latest information since they were young. They don't pick up a newspaper and read it like baby boomers and Gen Xers were trained. So what's so fascinating is, we talk about live TV is still the preferred way to watch television. And granted, when you look at the numbers, it is. But behaviors are changing, and this is what we need to keep our eye on, certainly as content providers. Baby boomers watch 61% of their television live. Millennials, less than half. They're finding alternative ways to watch television, television on demand. So why do we care? I mean, it's a big group. OK, great. Today, the 18 to 49 demo, which is the coveted advertising demo in the United States, Millennials represent 47%. OK. By 2016, they're going to represent 64%. 64% of the targeted demographic in the United States will be under 35 years of age. We already said they think different. They behave different. Our business models are still the same. So who's watching? If we look at 18 to 49 and we become complacent with the way that we're looking at it, we say, well, 18 to 49, they're still watching the networks. The DVR is up on top. But suddenly, when you look at just Millennials, the shifting of what they're watching changes completely. Now, male millennials are fascinating because the game console has really become the entertainment portal for them for everything that they do. And most recently, for anyone who was able to watch the Xbox One announcement, there's a number of videos on YouTube that I want to share with you. I'm going to share one. Fantastic. It had 6 million views by the time I left Los Angeles. And it's an edited version of the press conference that was done. It was a long presentation on Xbox One. Let's take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Xbox One. TV experience. TV. TV and movies? TV. Xbox. Watch TV. 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 Watch TV. TV. TV and TV remote. TV experience. TV. 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 Sports TV. 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 Anybody? TV. 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 Xbox. Go home. TV. 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 Television. Television. TV. Television. 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 TV. 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 Xbox is about to become the next water cooler.
A gaming console. So what's going on with primetime viewing? If you look in the United States, 27% of the primetime viewing takes place on the broadcast networks. 56% takes place on the cable networks. And when you start to look at online viewing, which everyone is talking about, and we're all talking about streaming and using alternative methods, the median age for online can run up to 18 years younger. Well, that's great. We're attracting millennials. But when you actually look at the reach that some of these networks have, for example, CBS, at 180 million people a month that they reach in the United States, they only reach 14.5 million uniques online. So there's a real difference between how many people they're able to attract in this younger demo. The CW is a great example. Rick Haskins, who's here, and his team, we've done an incredible job trying to harness the power of increasing reach among new technology so that people can watch the CW on different devices and different platforms. As we increase reach, we should see the ratings of the CW going up. So the evolution of viewership, just kind of a little review. You had your baby boomers. They were stuck to the TV. You watched it live or you missed it. Then we had a little bit of independence because we had the VCR, the DVD. We were able to record things. Then the laptop, and we started experimenting and streaming. And of course, the gaming console. And now we talk about mobile. But we talk about each one of these very separately. You know, we'll have a full conversation about mobile. And the truth of the matter is that not one millennial looks at the world this way. They look at it as their nirvana is every device, cross-platform, ubiquity. They want their devices to know them. They use Netflix. Netflix, you can start on a television, pull your iPad, take it with you to class, and continue watching the same exact product you were watching at home. It knows you. It has social capabilities. These are the kinds of devices. A smartphone is a computer. So when we talk about mobile, it's not distinct and unique, because that's not what millennials are looking for. They're looking for ubiquity among all their devices, and they want to be able to get their content in any way. So there's a lot of discussion about social TV and multitasking, and of course, we have advertisers all the time that are really excited because 19% of the people looked up product info for an ad they saw while watching a television show. The truth of the matter is, and we're not talking about sports here because there are differences, and we're not talking about reality shows, and we'll show you some examples a little bit later. But when we're talking about scripted television, people are not looking for, if today we run around 42 minutes without commercials, they're not looking for a 42-minute parallel experience on a second screen device. They're checking their emails, they're talking to their friends. If they did look up product, they may have spent 30 seconds doing it. They're not doing it as a 42-minute exercise. So we're here to talk about social marketing for TV. And we can all have our own philosophy on what is marketing, But we look at marketing as identifying and connecting your message with culture. That you're actually communicating with your potential viewer, in our case, in a way in which they're interested. And we're looking at these guys as communities. Haven't we come to the point when we look at age and it doesn't quite make sense to us anymore? Moms all have something in common. Does it matter that a mom is 20 years old, 25 years old, 30, 35? Or does it matter that she has a common experience as being a mother? So we have these biases that still remain between traditional media and social marketing. And there really doesn't have to be this bias. TV is a mature business. We entertain viewers. We're storytellers. We are professional storytellers at Warner Brothers. We have a distribution group. We have a production group. But at our essence, at our core, we are storytellers. And what technology has done for us in television is it's allowed us to enable viewers and empower viewers. And so, we are also media buyers, and it becomes a really interesting exercise for us because as much as we produce television shows, we have to market those television shows. And it's funny because we choose to go to on-air, print, radio, outdoor, online. Like this is the way we buy media as well. But nothing sells TV better than TV. That's just the way it is. We all know that. And this communication, this dialogue that's taking place now from traditional marketing to a more social style of marketing, it was one way before. We would get postcards from all over the world. I remember getting letters to J.R. Ewing where people would ask for money, and they'd be like from Budapest. I mean, people have been writing postcards and fan letters, and we've been responding with postcards for 30 years. And then in 2000, something started to change a little bit. We had message boards and chat rooms and AIM. And I remember in the really early days, there were these bots, these AIM bots. And we had a Gilmore Girls bot. It got a little funky in some of the answers, but we were experimenting and checking it out. Around 2010, the world changed. And suddenly, our viewers were able to talk to us and dialogue with us, our talent, and our producers pretty much live. And man, did they have a lot to say. And they continue to have a lot to say. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of ways that fans from around the world can communicate with us. And what's so difficult for us in many ways is it's fast. We need a lot of content. That concept of exclusivity, we're going to save that for one particular group, it doesn't exist anymore. It's fast, it's furious, and it's exciting. So where social media was once the bright, shiny toy, it's actually a key part of all of our strategies. But here's where we get into a lot of conversations with our content providers, our producers, our writers, our actors. Not all shows are created socially equal. And you say, well, what does that mean? Well, truthfully, when you look at Person of Interest, we have 14.5 million viewers weekly on CBS, 654,000 fans on Facebook. But then when you look at something like Vampire Diaries, on Vampire Diaries, we have around 2.6 million viewers a week on air and 15.9 million fans on Facebook. And what this has allowed for the CW and for all of the shows that have this type of social following is really the ability to be messaging and communicating and belonging to a community that lives around their programming. But here's the issue for us right now. Ratings don't determine social media relevance. So Gossip Girl, which was a huge show for us in the social media space, it didn't translate into a ratings bonanza. And yet it was on dozens and dozens of magazines worldwide. The stars in the show were constantly appearing on red carpets everywhere. They were talked about. It was buzzworthy, and yet we couldn't necessarily monetize that. So we look at social engagement, and we know that someday we're going to be able to look and say social engagement will have a business model attached to it. We're not quite sure what it is yet. There's a lot of companies out there that all offer all sorts of solutions. We're looking at probably 12 companies a month. and investigating this concept of how do you measure this. But the Vampire Diaries, which usually ranks around 29 or 30 on a weekly basis as scripted shows in the United States rankings, can end up being number 1, 2, or 3 on any given week for social activity. So what are we trying to do with social media? Well, if we're not necessarily monetizing it right now, the concept for us is really about making it a great experience for our fans. We can use it as customer feedback. We share all the information with our producers, our actors are in contact with the fan base. And it's about personal discovery, allowing fans to share their experience. They can amplify our marketing message. It's about brand exposure, awareness, and it's really about extending content. It allows us to create additional content during long hiatus breaks. But again, today, social media, it doesn't exactly correlate to TV viewership. So I wanted to share with you, and this is simply our philosophy, of how we break down social. We look at it as part of talent relations, we look at it as part of audience development, part of earned media, and paid media. And we have best practices amongst our team, our group, our talent, and we have boot camps that we do with a number of our talent across the studio. And within these best practices, it's really important that producers understand, if there's any producers in the room, be transparent. Spoilers, we know you hate them, but you know what? Sometimes the fans don't, and it's a great way to bring them in. Encourage peer-to-peer interactivity. Don't pick key art or art because you think it's really interesting. Pick it because you think it's shareable. Pick it because you think it'll be interesting to the fans. Stop looking at everything from a product-centric point of view. We try and look at it from a viewer, a fan point of view. Commit to that community. You're a part of the community, you don't own them. You don't own them, and you can't force them to feel or express themselves in a particular way. Stay relevant and be simple and quick. Put photos out there that can be shared quickly. And of course, there are players. We all have different players. And what's really interesting to us is how the entertainment players in this space are all pretty much, for us, the same now. We don't look at Perez Hilton as being any different than people.com. To us, if our fans are there, we don't separate it. So there's not that traditional media play versus the new media. Obviously, in social, depending on the show, we're pretty much in all these places and more: Instagram, Wikipedia, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter. We do believe, philosophically, that Twitter is better suited for our talent. It's an authentic voice. We don't do things normally in character, but Facebook is where we have the brand and the show residing. In video, YouTube. Look, YouTube is the monster of video clips. It's also the second largest search engine in the world. So as we look at this, and we look at search and Bing and Google, this is all about discovery, and it's about accelerating discovery. And of course, the social blogosphere that David also talked about. And games. Games has become an integral part of our media buys now, the social gaming area. I thought we'd quickly take you through a couple of case studies. So this happened about 3 years ago, and I'm going to give you some older case studies because I wanted you to see sort of the evolution of what's been going on. Quite interesting. I'll show you the video first.
For the first time in its 57-year history, TV Guide is letting fans decide what's on the cover. The candidates were 6 of TV's favorite cult shows, and after 5.5 million votes, we have a winner. And here to reveal the new cover is TV Guide's editor-in-chief, Deborah Burnbaum. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So how did you get the idea to let the fans decide among, what, 6 different shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you come up with this notion?
Every week we get hundreds of letters and emails and frankly tweets from readers asking us to put their favorite show on the cover. But for me, it was really going to Comic-Con last summer for the first time.
Right.
It's like a rock concert for
Yeah.
TV shows. And sitting there, I thought, I want to give these fans a voice. I want them to let them have their choice and put their favorite show on the cover of the magazine.
Sure. So what were the 6 shows then that you used to choose from?
We chose 6 shows across the networks: Bones, Castle, Chuck, How I Met Your Mother, Smallville, and Supernatural.
All with rabid fan bases.
All absolutely rabid fan bases that had big presence in Comic-Con and big presence across social media.
Right. So you put them up,
We kept the voting up for 2 weeks and let fans vote as many times as they wanted.
Right.
They let me know. I was tweeting with them all along the way, and they never let me forget about it.
Right. And how many? 5.5 million votes?
5.5 million votes by the end. I was absolutely amazed. By the first day, we had 500,000, and it literally came down to the wire in the end. The number 1 and number 2 were just separated by like 20,000 votes in the end.
No kidding. Well, we can reveal now the results of this voting, and the winner is
Supernatural.
So what's interesting about this is that it was around 3 years ago, and the actors, the producers, everyone got behind this on Twitter. And they all encouraged the fans and said, look, guys, we can own the cover of TV Guide. You can make this happen. Empowerment, saying to the fans that if they get together collectively as a community and they fight for something, they can make it happen. And they did. That is huge in the social space. The other thing that's interesting here is TV Guide is really an old school medium. It's a magazine that tells you what to watch on TV. I don't know how many of you have seen it recently, but there's still grids in there. So look at how they took this old media and translated it into a social experience. We love it. They've continued with this every year now, and they're going to continue to do it as far into the future as we can all see. Endemol and Facebook. There's been a lot of interesting work that's being done with Endemol, and we're keeping an eye on it. Most of it's in the reality space. I don't know how many of you have heard of the £1 Million Drop, but it's a game that's played live. It's a game show that's played live in the UK on Channel 4. And what's really fascinating about this is not just that the casting is done through social media for the game show, selections are done through social, but that 8.6% of the viewers play the game live as they're watching the show. They're playing along. That's fascinating. We need to keep an eye on that. The other thing that Endemol's done, which is really interesting, and although many of you know that Facebook credits are going away and they're going to go to a local currency, they have been using Facebook credits in Germany and other markets to vote for Big Brother. So you'd go on and you'd purchase your Facebook credits. And they had a problem in the UK with Channel 5, because when you purchase Facebook credits, and I don't know how many people in the room have actually done it, you purchase in groups of like $10, $20, and you have like a group of credits available to you to spend. People bought credits to be able to vote for Big Brother in the UK, and the system got all messed up, and they weren't able to use their credits, and it created a huge problem. But still, fascinating. Social to vote. Then your friends see your vote. Play live against a live game show. Your friends can see you playing live. You can play together. You start to see how there's a threading in the social space. 2.5 Men. We like this because it's really one of those, and I don't know how many of you have this situation. Senior executives believe that we push a button and we make social happen. So we had the launch of 2.5 Men with Ashton Kutcher, and decided that we weren't going to do this the same way. And we worked with CBS, great partners for us, and we decided that we were going to create this artwork in secret. There were probably 7 people at the photo shoot, which, if any of you have ever been to a Hollywood photo shoot, that's pretty amazing in itself. We created this key art, and the first person to release it was Ashton Kutcher to his 7 million Twitter followers. We engaged them first before we sent it out to traditional media. And what was so fascinating is we started at 7 o'clock in the morning, he tweeted it out, and then suddenly it was everywhere. By 10 o'clock in the morning, we had our office in the UK calling with the artwork printed out on video chat going, is this real? Is this real? And we were like, yes, we've been so busy, we forgot to tell you. But throughout the whole day, we were cycling the story. The difference here is we kind of knew up front that we had a piece of content that was going to go viral. That's very rare. We don't normally hold something in our hands that we know people want to get their hands on and share. So take a look at what we were able to get even at the end of the day. So we cycled through social, we cycled through online, we cycled through everything. And even in the end, we're able to get traditional media. For a billboard, essentially a billboard that we put up outside the studio 7 o'clock one morning. So the Vampire Diaries, huge show for the CW. Live tweeting event. Live tweeting with the talent actually helps the ratings on shows. We've seen this before. It engages them to watch the show live. We're very, very lucky because in the case of the actors who are part of this incredible ensemble cast, Ian Somerhalder and Nina Dobrev, these guys have 3, 4, 5 million fans following them on Twitter. So collectively, they engage them. They do not do it. One of the questions we had is, do they do it in character? They do not. We would normally have writers do that for them. They're doing it as themselves. So they may be talking about something funny that happened when they were shooting that. They're commenting on each other. And this actually impacts, for us, we believe, the live ratings. It also creates a very socially relevant show. It's become the #1 social program, at least the week that we did the live tweeting. So I got to give credit to ABC and Scandal. This was amazing. For those of you who have not kept up with what was going on with Scandal, it's brilliant. So with Scandal, they got the entire cast. Kerry Washington actually is a great leader. We called over to our friends at ABC, who are our partners on many shows, and said, we love what you guys did on Scandal. Tell us all about it. And what happened is Kerry Washington, literally with Shonda Rhimes, got the entire cast to tweet live during a show. But that's not it. It's not that simple. They wrote a special episode. They knew this episode was coming up, and it was the assassination of the president. There was an attempt on the president's life. And they created hashtags like who shot Fitz, or who's the mole. And all these hashtags and all of this social experience was being weaved throughout the show in lower thirds, in promos. They were engaging the audience to actually communicate with them. It was very, very, very well orchestrated. They still, to this day, tweet every single actor on that show on a weekly basis, not only an East Coast feed, but for the West Coast feed. We've watched the ratings of Scandal go from around 7 million to about 8 million now. And we believe that part of this is they've figured out a way to take social engagement and weave it through a live viewing of the show. Ellen. We love Ellen. She's our daytime, she's our king, our queen, we love her. She is the most amazing, incredible human being, and she is real and authentic, and it comes through in her social. And that's so important. There are so many experiences we've had with Ellen. We're going to let Ellen actually talk to you about her social.
Watch this, you'll
And what makes Ellen special? Not only is she authentic and real, and her fans know that about her, but she takes these social experiences and she shares them in her show. There's no greater reward than saying to the fans, what you're doing is fantastic and I'm going to share it with the rest of the fans. This is just an incredible use of social, and Ellen is the master of it. Because of this, she is the 5th most talked about TV show on Facebook. Her YouTube channel she's number 13, and she is the 10th most followed celebrity on Twitter, and she deserves to be. So how does all this fit together from a marketing point of view? What we find is that there's just too much data and too much information right now. This space, the digital space, all of this, it's in contrast to the traditional CPM model that we've been looking at. We're being asked to deliver things really quickly in an environment for you guys who know that television, unlike theatrical, is already a fast-paced production cycle. We have trouble just providing enough resources. Once we engage a community, it takes a lot to keep them engaged. We have to be there for them. We have to feed them. They want a lot of assets. And of course, there's just a lot of nuance to the data. It's not simply looking at the information and doing something about it. So as we look at the amount of data there is, 1.8 zettabytes was created and replicated in 2012. Now, I'm a marketing executive. I'm not a math major. So I look at this and I go, I don't even know what 1.8 zettabytes is. But really, if I'm trying to figure it out, it's every single person in the United States tweeting 3 tweets a day. All right, you know what? I can get my head around that. I understand what that is. All right, so that would be 4,320 tweets per day per person. Got it. For 26,976 years. Huh. All right, well, talk to me in something that I understand. It's like having 200 billion high-def movies, 120 minutes long each. All right, high-def movies, 200 billion. That would take one person 47 million years to watch all of those videos 24/7. Now, I say this because, yes, there's lots of information, and we hear that all the time. But how we use that information, how we filter that information, the nuance of that information, it's not that simple. And 1.8 zettabytes a year is what's being created in the world. So we have to look at sort of this symbiotic relationship between marketing and research. We are closer than ever. We're looking at new business models that may be in the future. You know, we've always talked about demos. Women 18 to 49, 25 to 54. Maybe we start talking in terms of affinity or community or on measurement. How do we measure, you know, units sold versus the hot levels, page views? There's so much information. There's so many ways of cutting up the information that we have. And of course, behavior. Do you get rewarded for retweeting? Is that worth something? Is Vampire Diaries being a socially relevant show? Should that give us incremental monetization on the show? You would think yes. And of course, there's information design. Researchers come in and they present all this data to us, and we can't make head or tails of it. They're the only ones that can. And I don't believe that it's, you know, job security. I just think that it's really difficult to figure out how to take this information and present it in a way that people can understand. And of course, we sell to over 200 countries in the world. So when we talk about nuance, we have to look at this data across all of those markets. And it's exciting, it's challenging, it's amazing, but there are a lot of really interesting things being done in this space. Thank you.